What's up, guys? It's Hovis here, aka the Deal Whisperer, and in this video I'm going to teach you how to buy real estate for pennies on the dollar without offending anyone. This video is about how to make offers without getting death threats. Seriously. The two main approaches are what I call the volume approach or the value approach. And if you get value from this video, do me a favor, hit that like button. Now, those two approaches are typically what wholesalers are doing. A wholesaler is someone who tries to acquire a property at a discount and then sell it at a discount. The volume approach is where they look up online what Zillow says that it's worth, give you an offer at 50%. Their purpose is to make as many offers in a day as they possibly can. I know some wholesalers who want to be making 50 to 60 offers per day. What that means is they're just throwing offers and seeing what sticks. Now, this is an approach that works with what I call green light leads. These are people who, because they're in such a distressed situation, are going to sell you their property just to get out of it. There's three types of leads out there: green light, yellow light, red light. Red lights are people who won't sell to you no matter what.
No.
Green lights are those that are in distressed situations that absolutely have to sell, and they're willing to sell to anyone who's willing to give them an offer. The yellow lights are people who are in between. They're going to need a little finessing. They're going to need a little bit of care. If you're going with that volume approach where you're just cramming offers down people's throats, what you're fishing for are just those green light leads. That does work. But what you'll also get is very angry people who don't understand the business and people who will yell and threaten, and it can get pretty nasty. I don't go with the volume approach. I go with the value approach. The value approach allows me to still get those green light leads, but I'm looking for those yellow lights. So let me teach you how the value approach works. When you are buying or selling, people buy or sell emotionally. Humans are emotional creatures. What we're trying to do is add a little bit of reason to the selling process about the condition of this house, their situation, and what we can reasonably pay for it and still make a profit. I come into every conversation with the seller explaining to them that I'm an investor, that I'm looking to buy property, that I have no intention of living there, that I typically can't pay top market prices, that I'm going to purchase this property at a discount, sometimes a significant discount, depending on what the rehab needs. And as long as you are upfront and honest with people, most people are okay to hear you out and listen to whatever offer you're able to give them. Humans want to not be taken advantage of. And so during the conversation, we listen. God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. But there are 5 hidden margins in this value approach that, as we explain where we're coming from, allows us to acquire those properties for pennies on the dollar. Number 1 is the market. Who's in the market to buy distressed properties? Most people want to go buy houses that are nice and pretty, looking really good. Some will even purchase properties that are dated a little bit. But what happens if there is no kitchen? What happens if the furnace has walked off? What happens if the roof is leaking, or you can look up through the ceiling and see blue skies? There's not a big market for people who want to buy those properties, except for guys like me. So if you have those deals, send me an email, deals@bradhovis.com, and I'll definitely take a look at it. The market is very large for retail properties. Why? Because banks will lend on those retail properties. The market is small for distressed properties. Wells Fargo, Bank of America is not lending on the type of deals that I'm buying. So I, as the investor, get a little margin just because of the market. We're not comparing apples to apples when we're talking about the nice fixed up house down the street versus this house that has no kitchen or bathroom. The second margin that we pick up is the rehab. I have crews of guys working for me on a consistent basis. And so they know once they get done with Main Street, they're going to Market Street and Bluebird Street. See, I don't hire the guys who have the wrapped trucks and the khaki pants. I'm looking for a contractor, someone who has the skills but doesn't want to run a business. He just wants to do the job. If the rehab costs me $15,000, it would cost the average homeowner who's hiring those guys with the wrapped trucks and the khaki pants, it's going to cost them 30 grand. So because of that, I'm able to get a margin just by using my crews instead of hiring a one-off business to do my rehab. The third hidden margin in the value approach is realtor fees. I'm not a realtor, so instantly I save myself 3%. The typical real estate commission is 3% going to a buyer's agent, 3% going to a listing agent. I come in unrepresented and get at least a 3% discount. Now, if I'm dealing directly to the seller, I get 6%. Number 4, cash. I buy most of my properties with cash. There's 3 reasons why a cash offer is better than an offer having to do with lending, and here they are. Number 1, no appraisal. You see, when you buy a property with a lender, they're going to require an appraisal. With an appraisal, you don't know what's going to happen. You can have 3 or 4 different appraisers appraise the same property and you'll get 3 or 4 different answers. Appraisals are subjective, and that can affect what the seller's going to get. If someone thinks that they're going to get a good appraisal and it is much lower. See, with the cash offer, there is no appraisal. I'm the appraiser. I think that it's worth this and I'm willing to pay that. The second reason a cash offer is more attractive, there's no inspections. There's no required inspections anyway. A lender is going to require an inspection. They're going to come up with a 80-something page report that talks about all the possible bad things that could happen in this property. The inspection report is mainly used to beat up the seller. I'm going through it literally right now. I had a property got put under contract yesterday. They did an inspection today, and now they're already beating me up about the roof. That's the purpose of the inspection, to beat up the seller, at least from an investor standpoint. So by the seller not having to deal with inspections, he doesn't have to worry about getting beat up. When I give that cash offer, no appraisal, no inspection, he knows that that's what he's getting. My price is my price. The third reason why a cash offer is more attractive than an offer having to do with financing is time. The bank can take 30, 45, even 60 days, depending on how busy they are, to underwrite a loan, get it approved, get it funded. With me, we can close next week. We can close in a day. The fastest I've ever closed is 30 hours. Guy came into my office on a Wednesday afternoon. We closed Friday morning. That's some of the advantages of a cash offer. So when you're explaining this to a seller, explain the advantages. And because of those advantages, you ought to get a margin. The fifth and final reason why you should get a margin is because you're an investor. This is a business transaction. Walmart doesn't acquire their products at the same price that they sell them for, neither do I as an investor. I need to get a little bit of a margin, and this is where I allow them to beat me up. What I do with the seller is actually explain what's going on. We're working a 5th grade math problem, just subtracting these numbers. And a pro tip is that if you allow the seller to come up with these numbers, it will go in your favor. And the reason is really simple. Most sellers, when they talk about rehab and construction, think that they cost a lot more than what it actually will cost. But for the most part, if you're dealing with an authentic seller that really wants to get a fair offer for their property, when you ask them about what do they think it's going to cost to change out the roof, they're not going to say $1,000, because it's likely that they have had an insurance claim on either that roof or some other roof, and they remember what that bid was, and it was a lot higher than what it cost me to get my roofs done. So as you're walking through these hidden margins, have them come up with the numbers. Do this elementary math problem with them. Subtract what the market thinks it's worth, minus the rehab, minus realtor fees, minus cash value, and we get down all these numbers, and then my investor margin. And I typically like to make about $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, whatever I say to this person, depending on where I think I can get this deal. And that's where we're going to argue. We're not going to argue the realtor fees. We're not going to argue the cash value. We're not going to argue the rehab, because we've already agreed to all that stuff. Where we're going to argue is in how much I'm going to make. So I'll give you an example of the difference between a volume approach and a value approach. We have a property in San Antonio that we had made a loan several years ago. The buyer wound up having financial issues and essentially gave us back the property. It's called a deed in lieu of foreclosure. So we got the property back, threw it up on Zillow to try to sell it real quick, and started getting a lot of interest. I put it up there at $99,500. The house is worth about $130,000, $140,000, needs about $15,000 worth of work. So I started it up high, knowing that I'm going to be dropping back down. Simply put, if I can net about 80, I'd be happy. When you put properties up on Zillow, you get a lot of people trying to make you a lot of offers. So here's one offer that we got that is more of a volume approach. Hello, I'm on your Zillow right now, and me and my partner are interested in your property. I am willing to give you an all-cash offer of $55,000. I will also take care of all closing costs, and I will take the house as is. Now, I have this property posted at $99,500. I've already gotten a bunch of offers close to that. And so I wrote back $55,000 plus $54,500, and you've got a deal. So what I did was I increased the price by 10 grand. $99,500, I told him he can buy it for $109,500. His response, how are you going to ask for more than what you have listed for? My response, how are you going to ask for less than what I listed it for? His response, because you ask for too much for a home as one needs repair to the value of the home isn't even worth that much. So I think what he's saying is because the house isn't worth that much because it needs a bunch of repairs. So then my response was, so do you want to take it at 120 or I keep going up 10 grand? I keep going up. His response, man, why are you going up? Do you think you're funny? My response, and this ended the conversation, is, I mean, you're throwing around Mickey Mouse numbers. Why can't I? This guy is throwing out ridiculous offers at $55,000, thinking we're going to come up to some other number closer to 70 or 75. There are people that this absolutely works on. Imagine if I absolutely needed to sell this thing. If I was about to send my kid off to college and having $55,000 makes it so that I can be the dad of the year. If I just got a big old medical bill. If I had inherited this property years ago, finally someone's willing to pay me $55,000 and I can pay off a credit card. There are people who will take those offers. Those are green light leads. This guy is spilling his candy in the lobby. Imagine if instead of this approach, he went with the value approach. They're going to come in and say, hey, it's worth 130, but man, it needs a bunch of work. Let's start at 110. I think that's probably fair. Now, I'm not saying either one is right or wrong, but my point is this. The value approach makes it so that I can pick up those green light leads, but I can also pick up yellow light leads. So both methods work. The value approach gets the green light leads and the yellow light leads. It makes it so that I can continue to follow up with sellers. I still have a great relationship with that seller, and he understands my situation and he understands where I'm at. Maybe he goes a week or two banging his head up against the wall, dealing with more difficult buyers than me. My approach is really simple. I can't pay retail. You will get more money selling with a real estate agent. However, I'm going to save you a bunch of time and headache. That's how I'm able to buy deals for pennies on the dollar. Once I work the math out, there's going to be a net difference. I'm upfront and honest with them at the very beginning. I'm an investor. There's going to be a little bit of margin, but I'm going to get you as much as I can pay you. And once I walk them through the numbers and they realize I might be losing 5-7 grand on this, but boy, I don't have to deal with all that headache. That's the ultimate point. How you buy property for pennies on the dollar without offending is make it easy for that seller. The volume approach works for those green lights. Use the value approach for green light leads and yellow light leads. See your deal volume go up so that you can continue to buy deals over and over again. Hey, thanks for sticking around to the end. Please like and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.